Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Joshua versus Franklin fight. If you are new around here then you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do need like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Joshua is 24-3 with 22 KOs and Franklin is 21-1 with 14 KOs. This fight is a 12-round fight in the heavyweight division. Joshua's last fight was a loss via split decision versus Usyk, and Franklin's last fight was also a loss via majority decision versus White. Joshua is the former IBF, IBO, WBA Super and WBO World Heavyweight Champion. This is a must-win fight for Joshua. He has even claimed that he will retire if he loses this fight. It is really a must-win for him if he ever wants to get back to that world level again. If he does retire, I don't know if it will happen or not. I wouldn't, not to sound horrible in a way, but if he does lose this, especially if it's in an embarrassing fashion, I wouldn't hate the idea of him retiring, because I don't want him to just become one of them fighters that was good and then just lost the ability and just wasn't really, and had like a rough end to their career just fighting for no reason. Because I mean, obviously he doesn't need the money, but I just don't want to see him losing fight after fight after fight for no reason, especially if he's clearly getting beaten, obviously. But I think if this fight's a close fight and he possibly loses, maybe there's another opportunity there, but I still think this is really a must-win for him. I mean, of course, his last fight was a split decision versus Usyk. That was in a rematch. Of course, he's now suffered back-to-back defeats, and so he's gonna have this fight as more, is seen as a tune-up fight. I think this is a good tune-up fight. I don't think it's really a tune-up fight in general, because I think this is a very tough opponent in Franklin, and an opponent which I think might be being overlooked by some, and an opponent which definitely could cause an upset here. This isn't Joshua's home country, of course, of England, and it's been a little bit since he's been there. Of course, he's had the 2 fights away in Saudi Arabia, and before that he had to fight versus Pulev, if I'm right in saying, and so that was the last fight he had in England, and that was during COVID times anyway, I think. So he's not been in front of a packed out English crowd in a while now, so that will either put more pressure on or maybe will help him some more. It'll be interesting to see how that factors in. Joshua, though, as a fighter, he feints, he likes the mid-range, he controls using the jab, he's powerful. He has a new coach coming into this fight, so it'll be interesting to see what that brings in. He picks his shots, he's a ferocious fighter. He has a very good uppercut. He used that very well against Pulev, and that's something which he's going to have to use here, because I think that's the possible weapon which might be able to be exploited here. He's patient, he has great conditioning, and he's slick, composed and dominant when confident. That's something which I've been really wanting to speak about. I don't think I've seen a fighter as of recent at this high of a level that's relies so much on confidence to be able to succeed. I think the fights since he's lost versus Ruiz via knockout, I don't think he has been the same fighter since. The main time which I think he did look really dominant, and when he does look good in fights, he has to have at least one early round where he is really good, and then because then that will stir him on to keep going. He had that versus Pulev, and that was in round I think 3 where he got the knockdown, and from then on Joshua looked really good. But I think when he was facing Usyk never really lost a round to him. There might be a couple rounds which he did lose, but it was close, and maybe a couple rounds which were drawn and were close. But I think over both their fights, they were very close fights, of course. And I don't think Usyk was ever out of the fight in any of the rounds. So I think that was something which kind of dampened Joshua's confidence. And I think when Joshua isn't confident, that he isn't anywhere near the fighter of what he could be. I think when he isn't confident, he can be seen maybe even as a bit flat-footed. He struggles to pick his shots. He doesn't throw with authority like he does when he's confident, and he has that poor mindset. He's a bit of a slow starter when he sometimes in general he's a bit of a slow starter. He wants to dictate fights, and so that's something which when he's confident he will do, and that's something which he just needs. He needs that confidence, and when he is confident, he's a great fighter. He's slick, composed, dominant, confident, ferocious. Will just use every attribute he can, and he uses it really well. And it would be nice to see him get back to that levels, not just in my opinion, the whole of fighting in general, I think they'd love to see him get back to that, because that Anthony Joshua is a really, really tough Anthony Joshua to beat. And I think just that Ruiz fight in general, that first one, he just was maybe getting too comfortable and not expecting Ruiz to do what he did. And I just think since then he's not really been the same. But of course, like I said, if he comes in with that confidence and he can get, or if he can get that confidence early on, then he'll be a much tougher of a fighter. He can throw low volumes amounts of punches. I mean, obviously when he's confident, he can throw a lot more and be a lot more active. But I think in general he's a slow starter. He doesn't throw a crazy amount. He picks his shots well. He's not as technical as Usyk. In general, he's not as technical. So that was something which also helped Usyk. The fact that he could get in, out, pick his punches, not focus on power. That was something which helped Usyk so much in that fight. He can be reluctant to throw, like I said. It's something which he did struggle with versus Usyk. He wasn't really throwing with any authority, and when he was throwing, it was just the occasional flick of the jab, which he does like to do and can work well, but he needs to follow that up with more punches and use the uppercut, which is something which, when he does use it, it's so hard to go against. But Franklin, as a fighter, he's lost a lot of weight seemingly coming into this fight. I might be wrong. It just looks like a lot slimmer version and a lot more well-conditioned version of him, which would be interesting to see if that might play some more of a factor for him, because I don't think his gas tank was ever bad, and I don't think his conditioning as a whole was ever bad, especially in that White fight, but I think now he might be able to move a bit better. He's used to being the away fighter. Of course, he's just had that fight versus Dillian Whyte, which he was the away fighter for, and so now I'd say he's accustomed to it and used to being the underdog, I suppose. He has a good jab as well. He's calm, he's composed when needed. He counters very well. That's something which he was doing versus Whyte. He's up for a war. Maybe that's not the best of things, but I think that's something which he kind of had to do against Whyte. But I also think that helps Joshua, because Joshua's used to fighters, and I'd say performs best with fighters that are up for a war and wanting to come towards Joshua, because Joshua will then invite on the pressure and if he can keep it at the mid-range and then throw his jab from there, and that's something which he wants to do, and if he can do, then he will definitely do. Franklin is a close range fighter. He will change levels well. That was something which he was doing well. He was going to the body well. He has good variation, like I said, similar kind of thing. He's tough. Good combinations, so throws with good combinations. He'll push you back, which Joshua is used to. I think that's also something he's used to. He's determined. He has a good chin. That's something which I'd say Joshua probably doesn't have. He doesn't have the best of chins, and it's kind of proven now that he doesn't. And so Franklin, I don't think he's one of the most powerful of heavyweights, but he can land a big shot, and that might be something which could possibly stump Joshua. I don't know if it will, but he could do. And he gives it his all. In that White fight, he gave it his all. I think personally that should have been either a draw or possibly a win for Franklin. I don't know if White deserved a victory for that, but it was a tough contest. It was a close contest, and I think Franklin's going to be coming into this fight. I think he's going to be a new man in a way, and I think it'll be a very tough fight. And like I said, you can't underestimate him. The kind of negatives of Franklin, he's not that fast, I'd say. He's open to shots. He's open to quite a lot of shots, really. He's not overly technical. He invites the pressure at times. He can struggle against uppercuts. That's something which Whyte was putting together, and that was probably the biggest weakness that Franklin showed, was against them uppercuts. And so if Joshua can use that, and that's something which I really need to see him use, really want to see him use, then that can be something which could definitely help maybe stop Franklin. He takes punches to give punches, and so if Joshua can use his power to maybe outpower Franklin, or if he can maybe go in, go out, be a bit more slick with his movement, Joshua, which he has done in the past, then that's something he could definitely use to his advantage. Like I say, his style is similar to what Joshua is used to and used to winning against, and he does stand straight on Franklin, and so I think it's going to be a similar kind of fight to what he's had before. I mean, he's had fights versus Whyte, versus Pulev, versus Povetkin, and I think them kind of fights are similar. Even Klitschko, similar-ish, maybe not too much Klitschko, but still similar-ish fights, and so I think that he will be comfortable, and like I said, if he can find that confidence early on, or even go in with that confidence, it'd be nice to just see an Anthony Joshua just going in with confidence. Then that would be something which will of course favour Joshua. Joshua, of course, is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Joshua will win via TKO in round 9. Maybe this is just my British bias, but I do really want to see Joshua win this fight and put on a good performance and get back to. I mean, I don't think he'll ever be at the level where he could beat a Usyk or beat a Fury, but just get back to the level where he can fight around them lot and just be seen as a willing and or good opponent to fight against them lot. Because at the moment, I think if he went and just fought Fury right now and didn't fight Franklin, then everybody would be like, why? Because he's not at that level to anymore, and he's not shown recently that he can. But I think if he puts on a good display here, probably be able to get a late TKO. I don't think it'll be an early TKO because it's just not really what Joshua seems to do. But if he can maybe get an early knockdown, get a late TKO, similar kind of fight to the Pulev fight, then I think he'll be able to do that. And yeah, TKO at round 9 is my prediction. And then there's a few options. I mean, he could go to rematch White. I think that'd be probably the most likely fight to happen, and it'll probably favour him the most. Possibly, I mean, the fight which I want to see is him versus Wilder. That's the real big fight which I want to see. That could be a very tough test for both fighters, and that'll be a great fight. Or the Ruiz trilogy. Ruiz looking great at the moment. Maybe if Ruiz has one more wins up, then that could be a fight for Joshua. Or Joyce. I could see Joyce beating Joshua, to be completely honest, but maybe if Joshua wins this one and beats White convincingly, or beats Wilder, then possibly then he could probably beat Joyce. But I think Joyce's chin is just going to be a bit too much, especially at the moment, for what Joshua would want. So I don't think he would take that fight at the moment. But there's a few options there. I want to see a big fight after this for him, and I don't want to see him just go against some guy that's not really anybody's really heard of, just another tune-up fight. But I do like this fight, to be honest. I wasn't really a massive fan when it first announced, but the more I've looked into it, the more I've learnt about the fight, then I don't mind it. I do quite like it. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.